Okay, so first, relative to network editing, we'll talk about the GTFS tools inside of TBEST. So basically, in terms of an overall interoperability of GTFS, clearly TBEST can take in a GTFS from any source, meaning Trapeze or Remix or Optibus, FTA Stops GTFS, or any regional agency GTFS. So not necessarily your own in terms of your agency. You can mix GTFSs and bring in routes that you want from select GTFS files into one scenario for TBEST. So you can have, I mentioned Broward County Transit earlier. You have all of the Broward County transit routes. Plus, you have some routes from Miami-Dade that connect with your service and some from Palm-Tran that connect with your service. Maybe Tri-Rail is in there as well because it connects to all of them. So it doesn't have to be just your agency. You can combine multiple GTFSs with select routes that you might want from each to have a GTFS that would represent the service you're looking to use in your TBEST. So the other option is to export GTFS. So once you have combined your networks and created the networks either from a GTFS you import or network editing that you perform inside of TBEST, you can export out to a GTFS and then use that elsewhere. Okay, so our task here in terms of updating our transit system to the current conditions. So when we validated against this fall 2024 network because we had observed ridership data for it. However, now we really want to bring in what's existing, right? So the service changes happened between fall 2024 and spring 2025. And we want to make sure that our new routes and new service are represented in TBEST. So we're going to do that through the GTFS import tool. All right, so basically we're starting here with our fall 2024. We make a copy of it to make it spring 2025. So we have just a copy of our network scenario, our base scenario, and call it spring 2025. Then we're going to use our GTFS import tool to bring in the updated spring service through the GTFS import into spring 2025. And from there, we're going to create our TDP scenarios. We're going to copy the spring 2025 to create a 2035 no build. And once we do that, we're going to copy the no build to create a TDP 2035 constrained plan. So basically, we're using what's inside of this that's updated, the spring 2025, to then build that out into the future, right? So that's our general task and process to create these alternative scenarios now that we've validated for our 2024 base. All right, so what does the GTFS help you with, the import tool? It imports the routes and service into TBEST network scenarios. It's a representative weekday, Saturday, and Sunday service. And with minimal review, the GTFS network is ready for TBEST modeling and analysis. Once they're imported, the routes and all their service and stops and alignments become editable within TBEST. Okay, so this is the TBEST GTFS network import tool, where basically you want to set it up by, first of all, selecting a source GTFS file, right? So before anything happens, and this is blank, you select this GTFS file. And from that, it will show you all the service periods. So in these boxes will be the service IDs. If you all are familiar with that from the GTFS, there are service IDs that operate on particular days, right? So what you will do is select a weekday, Saturday, and Sunday that are representative of the service you want to import. So it would be up to you to know, hey, yes, I want service on this date because this is the service we run all the time. We can pick any date because the service is the same pretty much all the time. Or it might be a Thursday we have some additional trips, etc. And do that for Saturday and Sunday as well. So you have weekday and Saturday, Sunday service. Once you make these selections, it populates this list of routes at the bottom. And so basically, you are able to then say, well, if you have an existing network, which we will when we run this, because we're going to import over our fall 2024 service to bring in our spring 2025, we're going to have routes that already exist. So Route 1 already exists inside of the TBEST network. So it's going to overwrite it. So whatever service change is coming in from this spring GTFS in this Route 1 will just be overwritten to overwrite what's already in TBEST. So what's good about this is it doesn't overwrite the attributes, right? So whatever we've defined in terms of route types and technologies, special generators, park and ride counts, all of that gets retained in the network. So while we're still building in our service, it's retaining all those attributes that we took the time to add for our base, right? So all our generators amenities get retained. It just keeps them at the stop level and retains them. So that's pretty handy, as well as the route validation collections, right? So basically, if this new Route 1, it's all the Route 1 patterns are in a validation collection for Route 1, it will insert whatever new patterns into Route 1, right? So it maintains the collections as well for the validation. So you don't have to worry about that part. All right, so yeah, so the point here is that we're going to overwrite existing routes, and then we may have some that exist in the TBEST network, but aren't in the GTFS, right? So that means that they're no longer in service, right? So this Route 461, 462, and 612 are no longer in service. So we're going to remove them. So the action is to remove those existing routes. Now, what you see here too, this is interesting that there is Sunrail, right? So really Sunrail doesn't count here because Sunrail isn't in this GTFS anyway. So this one we may want to not check to remove, right? Because each one of these we can either check or uncheck to do that action. So we may not want to check remove the Sunrail because we want to keep it in the network, right? Maybe we update it with another GTFS, but it's not one that we want to remove, right? Just keep that in mind. That each one of these, you have the ability to not check it and import it, right? So you don't have to check all of them. You can just check the ones you want to import. All right. Yeah, so we mentioned here this import stop level valid data. So basically, if your GTFS includes this stop ridership.txt, and there's information on that in the user guide, then it will import APC data with it. Okay. All right. So one of the nice things about this is when you do import a GTFS, it does keep a history so that you can always refer back to what GTFS, the actual files that you imported, meaning the entire GTFS zip file, the service IDs and the dates that you selected, and the routes that you actually imported on that particular import. So it's very nice to be able to go back and see what did I import and when, and what were the dates and what routes did I import on that particular import session, right? And as I mentioned, it keeps the source GTFS as well. All right, so we mentioned the option to export GTFS. So there were a couple of versions of this: export all routes or the selected routes. So certainly one of the benefits of this is you can share the TBEST GTFS networks to import routes into other TBEST transit systems, or they can be shared with other planning applications, including FTA stops model. So the option when you're right-clicking in on a scenario in TBEST Explorer, you go to GTFS import export tools and export routes to GTFS. That takes the whole network, right? That's the network export option. And then you would just give it a name and a location, hit OK, and it will export it out to a GTFS. The other option, as we said, is to select specific routes in using a particular scenario, and then go to export routes and select local export data, and where it says mobile geodatabase, GTFS, or CSV, that's the option you want. And then basically you can select GTFS here, right? So in the export options, it will default to mobile geodatabase, but you can select either CSV or GTFS. And you select GTFS, then you can export just the selected routes only. All right, great. So let's do a exercise. Take about 15 minutes, maybe less to do this. Any questions that came up? Nope. Fantastic. All right. Okay. So I am on 4.1 TBEST GTFS import the spring 2025 GTFS network into a TBEST application scenario. All right, so in TBEST Explorer, copy the fall 2024 base scenario into a new scenario by right-clicking on it and selecting copy. So I just right-clicked on fall 2024 and select copy. We want to enter a scenario name as spring 2025. And importantly, we want to set the forecast year to 2025. Okay, and that's it. So we really are just making a copy of fall 2024 and making it spring 2025. All right, so now we have our spring 2025 here. All right, so let's right-click on spring 2025 and import routes. Sorry, GTFS import export tools, import routes from GTFS. So we see that we're fully empty. We had looked at this form in the slides, but now it's empty. So basically we just need to start at the top and select our source GTFS zip file, which we can find in our C drive, and TBEST 5 Transit Systems Gatorville data, and this RTS GTFS Spring 2025 zip file. And just select open. So it will load all of the service IDs that are for each day of the week, right? So either not day of the week, but either weekday, Saturday, or Sunday. So what we want to do is select a specific day for service for each one of the weekday, Saturday, and Sunday. So we use this date drop down for weekday. And we need to select, I need to move to the next, 1/17/2025. So we would just kind of forward on to the months. You can also click on the month itself, and that kind of gives you all the months that there are service. So you notice that it stops in August. That's because that's where the GTFS stops, right? So it doesn't go further than what the GTFS dates are. But we're going to select January and select the 17th, which is a Friday. So then it will automatically select those service IDs that are in service on that date. And these are the routes that are in service on that date. And it also gives you the trip. So these are one directional, single direction trips for the weekday, right? So this is the total count of trips for Route 1, Route 10, et cetera, right? So it's just a great way to screen to make sure that, hey, does this look reasonable, right? 184 trips for 118. That might be a lot, but actually I think the headway on that is probably, 10 minutes or 15 minutes, so it's not out of the question. So it's a great way for you to make sure that the GTFS is correct, because they are not all correct. They're flawed. So you need to just take that into consideration, that you're not always dealing with a fully complete or a fully functional GTFS. And there are tools to validate GTFS feeds. You can certainly do that. They're out there, so you can validate the feed before you would use it in TBEST. All right, so the next task is just to select the Saturday service. So we're going to go to our January 18th. And then for Sunday, we will be on January 19th. Okay, so it filled out our Saturday trips, our Sunday trips. You can see which ones are in service, which ones are not. You can see that these routes, for it says overwrite existing, those already exist. And there is a new route, Route 52 is new, and that's it. Just Route 52 is new. All right, so another important point of this is to show TBEST routes not in the GTFS, right? All right, so wow, okay. So yes, there is a new route, but there are a lot of routes that are actually removed. So 119, 121, 25, 52, 25, 36, and 40 are in the TBEST network from fall 2024, but they were removed in the spring 2025 GTFS. So essentially, they're no longer in service. So we want to remove them from the TBEST network. So that's what this is going to do. All right, so once we have looked at this and we have some additional settings here that we can, if you do have the stop ridership.txt in the GTFS, it will automatically check this. So it will recognize this. It looks at the GTFS and sees that there are time points defined and native GTFS time points, so that's fine. Everything else looks okay. There are different options that you can look up in the user guide if you need to make adjustments, but from what I see, everything looks okay. And we can just hit select all. And so that will actually remove these routes. It will overwrite these routes and it will insert this new Route 52 into the network. And we just hit import routes. Okay, great. So it finished up and it gives us a prompt here to say the TBEST GTFS network import completed successfully. Do you want to open the imported routes in TBEST? Yes, I do want to do that. So I'll say yes. So that will close the network import from the GTFS, and it will open up my spring 2025 scenario and show me the routes as they came in from the new GTFS. So right away, I see that our new Route 52 is here. So here's our 52. So that is the new route that was defined. So it is right here in our new network. So that's good. And it looks like all the routes that we had to remove are gone. And so to me, it looks like everything looks like it's in good shape. What I would normally do, I would select all the routes and just run a quick route service report so that it tells me basically what the new network involves and what's in it. And does this look reasonable to me? So it could be that some of the headways look off or the trips look off or service hours. So it's kind of a way for you to say, well, I want to evaluate this before I continue to use it in TBEST to make sure the GTFS is true and that it was imported correctly into TBEST. But it looks fine to me just with a cursory glance. And we could also choose Saturday to see what the Saturday service is and Sunday as well. All right. So let's close the spring 2025 scenario. And real quickly, just as a demonstration, it's not necessarily part of our overall workflow of building up our validation and our TDP scenarios, but you certainly can export a GTFS. So if I right click on my fall 2024 and select export routes to GTFS, I can select a location. So I will just do on the desktop. I will select and enter TBEST GTFS export. So I'm on exercise part 2, export the fall 2024 network, and I'm on step 2, just entering the zip file name and clicking save. So everything is fine here. Gatorville will be the agency name. Obviously, gatorville.net is probably incorrect. So certainly you can put an agency URL that would make sense. The time zone you can select as well as the service begin date and end date. It is going to export all routes, and it does give you a disclaimer on this as well. So we're just going to say OK. And it will export that out. And once it's done, it will open up the export in its target folder. So we have this TBEST GTFS export.zip. If I double click on that, it has the GTFS files in it, shapes.txt, route.txt, stops, etc., stop times. It also has 2 additional files as well, TBEST features and TBEST feature locations, as well as parking spaces. So these are kind of neat in that you can, what it does is exports the XY location and the type of all the special generators and amenities. So essentially it will have, if you wanted to open this in, let's say an ArcGIS Pro, you could, use your XY coordinates to create points, and then just have this out in a separate GIS database or just in the table that it is. The TBEST features, which is the same data except it's related to stop ID. So this is the individual stop IDs that hold the special generators and amenities. It's a feature of the export. And one of the cool things about this is that, if you wanted to give a GTFS to someone from TBEST, that it will import all these into their TBEST. So it transfers these special generators and amenities out of your network and into someone else's network that they would import, right, into TBEST, right? So it does transfer that information with it through the GTFS. Okay. All right, so that was it for GTFS import and export. So let's move on to the next section. Do we have any questions? No? Okay.